Let's zone in on offensive faces to watch.
Okay.
And I'm going to go off what we wrote today on Husker Online here on Friday, because we kind of previewed our players to watch going into the game. But clearly Dylan Raiola, all the quarterbacks in general. But I think for you and I, we were spoiled that we got to see Dylan Raiola for an entire week in Honolulu practice. Nobody here other than high school coaches and former players and maybe families of players have been able to watch practice. So for 55,000 or 60,000 people, they're going to get their first look at Dylan Raiola in a Husker uniform.
They are, and I think we can say to this point he's had a good spring, and I would almost say very good. I think that I'm not saying that every practice has been very good, but he's had a lot of good moments. He's handled this all very well. I mean, and we're not talking, we talked to a lot of people in the program. It's exciting. Dylan has exciting talent. He has exciting arm talent. His football acumen is excellent. I mean, it's excellent. He wants to be great. He wants to be an NFL player. He's got a high degree of want to in terms of wanting this program to get on track, and him and his family and him helping be the impetus to that. So it's a great picture. I never worry about him. I just don't worry about him.
I was watching the NFL draft on Thursday night, and I thought about this as the quarterbacks were being picked. Ohio State, Georgia, and USC, all three of those schools, that was their first quarterback pick. They all wanted him, and he was committed to two of them at one time. And USC wanted him just as bad as Ohio State and Georgia.
Yeah.
Guess who dominated the draft last night? Those programs.
Yeah.
And Nebraska is able to get this guy. I mean, if it works out, I mean, it is a historical moment. If this works out and turns the tide of what we've had to deal with here, like
we'll look back on it.
It's a moment that, he picked Nebraska over Lincoln Riley. He picked Nebraska over Kirby Smart, over Ryan Day. I mean, it's really remarkable. And
it is.
Without being a legacy, it never happens.
Probably wouldn't happen. No.
Without his uncle being on the coaching staff. I mean,
yeah, and his dad being a legend here. And no, you're right. I'd like to say otherwise, but no.
And Rule retaining Donovan, if you think about that decision now, because at that point Dylan was going to Ohio State. He was committed there.
Yeah, I never know what to do with that conversation.
But I mean, having Donovan here is a big the relationship.
Well, it's not. Yeah, it's definitely the relationship, but it is practical. There's practical value too, in that Dylan gets the protections from Donovan. So do the other quarterbacks, but the other quarterbacks aren't over at Donovan's house going through them and doing his under the center handoff steps. That's the kind of thing that's invaluable. But listen, Donovan would tell you, and he'd jump in right now and say, "Hey, I help the other quarterbacks too." But to think that Dylan doesn't benefit from having an uncle that knows all the protections, is coached in the NFL, understands all that, and Dylan carries it over to the field. Rules made that very clear. People that I know that watch this stuff, like I said, his football acumen is excellent. It's excellent. He changes protection at the line of scrimmage. Not all NFL guys can do that. Dylan's very intelligent.
And then moving on to some other guys.
Yeah, move on.
Let's go receivers. We have Isaiah Nayor and Jamal Banks, both newcomers, both transfers. Both have had big moments. In fact, Banks has kind of been, he hasn't played limited by just based on his experience. But I think today you would probably tab Jamal Banks as maybe their number one receiver.
Right. And I don't know who's on our list, but I would add Ja'Cory Barney to a receiver you'd look at on Saturday, and Demetrius Bell.
Is Bell healthy?
Maybe not. Maybe he's one of the guys that they're wondering about. Ja'Cory Barney's a dude.
Janiron Bonner's kind of a sleeper.
Yeah. Ja'Cory Barney is a speedster who's raised eyebrows in a big way, and he's definitely someone to watch. Bonner, you would say, for what I've been told, is Janiron Bonner, very under the radar, except to people who watch practice. Maybe one of the top 7, top 6, top 8 guys at the receiver position.
they tried that fullback thing a year ago. I mean,
with Bonner.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We haven't heard a ton about fullback stuff. I mean,
No, we haven't.
Is the fullback now more or less just like a motioning tight end?
Maybe we haven't heard much about.
But you don't. I think year one, little red meat.
Yeah.
Talk about the fullback, everybody, but they have fullbacks. I mean, like Vince Genatone could play fullback when he gets here. I mean,
Liebentritt's capable.
They have, but yeah, I think when you have the tight ends coming into this program, you want to use them.
Yeah, that's probably part of it. That may be part of it. That's the kind of thing we learned. And for people who are watching going, well, so how do you guys not know if they're using a fullback? We don't see any of the practices where they run plays. Probably saw 12 plays in that one portion of practice that we were able to see them run 11 on 11. And I don't even know. I can't remember if they were using a fullback for any of those plays, but we don't see enough to be able to talk authoritatively about what instances they might use the fullback. There's Liebentritt's on the roster, and he's a good one. What I've noticed about Liebentritt is he can really catch the ball. I mean, he really catches the ball well in those passing drills.
You play a fullback if it gives you an advantage. When Andy Janovich was here, they figured out a way to get him on the field because he gave Nebraska an advantage.
Right.
And, these guys behind the scenes that we don't know much about, if they can't give you an advantage in an NFL level league like the Big Ten, you can't play them.
100.
So, I mean, that's the fullback discussion for me. Yeah. If they have a guy that can be like a use check from the 49ers, you use them. But, you're not just going to force it just because fullbacks were once a part of the history of this program.
The other guys you watch, Emmett Johnson's obviously had a pretty good spring. He popped a big long run, the only long run of last Saturday's scrimmage. And then, of course, you're wondering about Dante Dowdell. Emmett Johnson's way ahead of Dowdell is my interpretation. Is that yours?
Yeah. It's weird. You hear mixed reviews on Dowdell. Some people say, like, he's been good. Some say he's got a ways to go. I'll just be curious where they fall because they are actually kicking the tires on Dylan Edwards.
Oh, they are.
As a transfer here.
Are they kicking the tires?
Yeah, they're in the discussion with 3 or 4 other teams. Kansas State's one of the other teams. A&M's one of the other teams. Georgia might even be involved. But, Dylan, there's 2 things for Nebraska, though. Spots. Like, I don't know if they have a true spot right now. They'd have to pretty much put him on a full NIL.
The other thing about Dylan Edwards is he doesn't, to me, Sean, I'm going to say 5'9", 5'10", 170.
He's Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yeah, he's not a guy you're going to line up as a conventional running back all that often in the Big Ten, right?
Maybe.
Hello? I mean, little.
He's a sprinter, though. He's fast.
He's a good football player. Now, he had 361 rushing yards for Colorado. 600 and some total yards. He didn't light the world on fire. He did against TCU in the opener. He had 159 yards against TCU. And that got everybody's attention. Now, he didn't do a ton after that.
Once the tape got out on him, teams kind of learn how to defend you a little better.
I just wonder what Rule would say. I mean, look at his listing there, 5'8", 155. Now, he's gotten bigger than that. The last I saw, he was 170.
He reminds me of Wan'Dale.
Think about it, though. Think about the guy that Rule seems to prefer, Gabe Ervin, and that body type. Think about what they brought in with
Would he be a true running back, though?
That's what I'm asking. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I don't know that he would be. So then what are you doing with him? Splitting him out at times, running him out of the backfield at times.
Or would this be kind of like a better long-term version of Billy Kemp?
Ooh, maybe.
I mean, a motion slot guy, a punt returner.
Yeah.
Because Kemp was solid. I mean, but didn't have probably the impact we thought he was going to have.
Kemp averaged. I got it right here, Sean.
He led the team last year.
He led the team in receptions,
and he was a victim of the quarterback situation.
Here's the thing. He had 35 catches, averaged 8.9 per catch. 8.9. It's a little number. That's a small number for your number one. Think about it.
Yeah.
No, Teray was like, what was Teray? 15 plus, right? What was Palmer? Like 17.
I mean, Brandon Riley was dang near 20.
Right. Yeah. No, this was 8.9. I don't know. That's interesting that they're kicking the tires on Edwards. It's interesting to me because I don't see him as a conventional running back in the Big Ten because he weighs 170. You just don't see that. Somebody on my radio show said, sit Blake Corum. Blake Corum weighed 210 pounds. Blake Corum
he's thick.
I mean,
and he ran low,
benches I mean,
he was closer to a Corey Ross type.
He went crazy in the bench press at the combine. He's a little in like stature, but he's a bowling ball. That's not Dylan Edwards.
All right. I want to get Micah Mazuka in briefly because we don't know if he's going to play in this game. Do we?
No.
No.
It wasn't addressed yesterday.
He's been out with sickness. So, that's a guy that when healthy, when engaged with what's going on, he's a starting guy on this team.
Guard.
But is he healthy? Is he engaged?
That's what we don't know.
Those are the two questions.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. You'll get your binoculars out tomorrow in warm-ups and see what he's doing. Is he working with the ones? If he's not, what's he doing? Is he dressed out? I mean, those are the kind of things you wonder about with him.
A grown man, though, that's been a starter for 3 years of his college football career doesn't strike me as a guy that wants to run at the twos.
No.
He started for Florida last year.
Right. It has started for Baylor and Florida.
Yeah.
He has 21 starts at those schools.
He didn't come here to be a depth guy.
No.
So that's one to watch closely.